Yo, in this video I'm going to tell you how I like to play against Akali. I am a Challenger Z1 trick on EOS who peaked 1200 LP this season. If high-elo Z content interests you, do subscribe since I'll be making videos for now. I also stream Grandmaster Challenger EOS Z gameplay on Twitch during most evenings, so feel free to check out the description for that. I'll first give my thoughts on the best runes and summoners to take and why. After that I'll talk about some tips and tricks you can use against Akali throughout the game, starting from level 1 and going upwards. Finally, I'll talk about the best skill max order and item builds, and then wrap up my final thoughts. So let's get into it. For runes against Akali, I think First Strike is the best. You can also take Precision Secondary. If you want, going Conqueror is not that good, but if you have Ignite and Flash and you want to go Conqueror, this is the page I would take. If I have Ignite and Teleport and I want to go Conqueror, this is the page I would take, or Second Wind instead of Bone Plating, depending on your preference. If I have Flash and Teleport, and I want to go Conqueror, this is the page I would take. However, there's also the Electrocute page. This used to be good against Akali, before the early game nerfs to Zed's damage. Now I don't like going Electrocute in pretty much any matchup. It's still decent against Akali though. So if you like going Electrocute, you take this page and go Umbral Glaive or something. But in this video we're going to talk about First Strike because I think First Strike is the best. So First Strike, because First Strike, and then Reboots, which is better than these two. Futures Market or Minion Dematerializer, both are good. I still take Futures, but that's just me being lazy about thinking what's like the absolute best. Minion Dematerializer is likely better because you use it on cannon minions to push the waves, and then you can use it on other minions to get the minions, I guess. Cosmic Insight is the best one here. Secondary, you have multiple options. I like to go Transcendence and Scorch. However, recently I found this rune page here with Presence of Mind and Last Stand, which is also pretty good because it scales better. It scales much better than the sorcery page. So you can go this or this. Adaptive, MR. If you, I usually go Ignite and Teleport against Akali, but if you want to go TP and Flash, this is better because you're more scaly with TP and Flash, and this should add to it. So that's it for runes. For summoner spells, I think Ignite and Teleport is the best. I think Flash is not as good against Akali because she has too much mobility, too many spells which can get onto you too much. It's basically just too much. That Flash doesn't help you really. She can kill you very quickly with all her spells, and it's very mobile that even with Flash it's unlikely that you're going to use Flash in a very good way unless you have a very good reaction time, sort of abnormal reaction time in my opinion. I think Ignite and Teleport is just going to be your best bet. You can also go Flash and Teleport instead, since Flash is still going to be good against the rest of the champs in the game, of course. So going Flash is not the worst thing in the world, but in the 1v1 against Akali in general, I think Ignite and Teleport is the best. Level 1 against Akali, if you don't see her in the lane and you're in the lane first, you see the minions come through, you're going to want to walk up to try to see where she is, because your Q outranges hers. So if she's not in the lane at level 1, you can maybe get a free Q like that. After you've both settled into the lane, you're not going to want to push in my opinion, because Akali's Q energy has been buffed recently and she can do the Q, auto Q pretty consistently and easily. So instead of pushing, you're going to want to space her Q and just farm the minions with Q. If she misses Q, then you can try to punish her a bit, since she'll only have one Q. But in general, it's going to be tough, so you're going to want to play on her Q range and try to dodge it, and be in a position that if she hits it, then she still won't be able to get the passive auto on you, so you have to space it like that. Apart from that, you don't want to let her stack 3 waves, so walk up to the minions. If she's pushing it very slowly, then you're going to want to make some trades happen on your side of the minions, right? So walk up to your own minions, try to make her Q you and the minions, that sort of thing, so the wave comes in and they crash 2 waves instead of 3. Level 2, if you see Akali take her W, which is what they usually do, you should level your E, and if you see them take their E, then you're going to want to level your W. But that's just a small thing, and it doesn't matter too much since you're going to be scaling for level 3 anyways. Levels 3, 4 and 5 you can't do much, but you still can win, I think. Especially if you read her correctly, so if you sort of walk behind your backline minions and she's playing aggressively, you know, if she walks up to you and you know she's going to Q instead of E, because sometimes Akali can either Q or E you to deal damage. So if you know she's going to Q, then you can time your W, EQ, W quite well if you put it right next to her. That way you can dodge the Q. You have to do it as she Qs, so you have to sort of think in her perspective a bit. And then if you do that, you can dodge her Q by going over it, and then you'd probably hit your Qs, and then you would auto attack her, and then she would panic E, but she would E towards your shadow because you already took the shadow, right? She would E towards the place that you were in. They usually don't react and E to the side, so that's one way of doing it. Although you should usually only do this trade if you already baited out her W through spacing in the minions and playing a bit safe. Another way to trade, if you have some range, you can WE, and if only her E is in range, not her Q, then you can just walk to the side, or either left or right, and then let her E, and then you throw the Q from your shadow and hit 1 E and 1 Q. Akali is a rare matchup where after level 6, it's a bit harder for Zed compared to pre-6, but you can kind of still win if you outplay her, which is tough because of all her dashes and stuff. But basically you don't want to use your W forwards anymore once you're both level 6, because she can always punish really hard and easily by just ulting you. So you want to hold your W, and then if she ults you, when you have W up, you just W away and just run away. If you keep good distance, that's a good way to sort of trade her ult for your W. The main ability you want to avoid from Akali after level 6 is her E. You should try to use your W2 or your ult to dodge her E if you have the reaction time for it. Although if her E does hit you, then you want to use your ult to dodge the E2 as she comes in. If Akali ults you and you don't have W up, so if she catches you out, it's usually worth just trying to ult her when she's like on top of you. And when you think she's going to E, because a lot of Akalis like to do R1 into E while they're mid-air. So trying to predict that is probably your best bet if she catches you out. For example, if you use your W to clear the wave and she comes out of the bush while you have your W2 up, let her ult you, and if she ults you, then you can try to ult her, try to predict and dodge her E, and then after that you can take your W2 and she'll follow you, your W2, with her ult, and if she does that you can go back to your ult shadow and just simply run away. Also take note that Akali has abilities that put her in an exact position, so if she has no E and she uses R1, you know exactly where she's going to land and she won't be able to dash until her R2 comes up, which is a couple seconds. And also, if she E's, then you know exactly where she's going to be, so you can sort of line up your WEQs like that. As well as the fact that I said earlier, when it's pre-6 and she Qs, she's also locked in place. So those sort of abilities and stuff that lock her in place or put her in a position where you know she's going to be can help you line up the Qs sometimes with your WEQ, so you'll have to decide. Apart from that, you're going to want to scale up and get your items with your first strike as soon as possible, because I think items are quite good in general against Akali. Getting your items faster and getting to the late game faster, the skirmishes and team fights later on, when you're going to have more power, I think. If Akali gets too fed, then obviously she's going to blow stuff up a lot. But in general, if you're not too far behind, the team fights will be where you want to go. Later on, after the laning phase, you don't want to fight her in the side lane because she has stronger 1v1 usually. You're probably going to want to go for the team fights, so be careful of that. Another thing is that in the mid game, when you're shoving waves, you can shove the wave in, go into fog, and then Akali's gonna take the wave, but they usually use their W to take the wave as well. So if you hide in fog and watch them, if they use their W and their E, then you can try to kill them. If they just use their W, then you can still try to kill them, but be careful of their E. And yeah, so Akali uses a lot of her spells to clear the waves, so using the fog after pushing waves is pretty good pretty much throughout the entire game. So take that into account. In teamfights, it's usually good to hold your spells for Akali because a lot of the time, the Akali just goes in and one of your teammates CCs them. Usually, at least in my games, my teammates usually get the CC on her, and if I hold spells, then I can kill her with my WEQ or WQW auto E into ult. You know, just use the spells on the Akali after she tries to go into our team. It's good. It's important to wait until she tries to go in, and then somebody hits a CC or something like that. You got to wait for the right opportunity instead of going in first. I think that gives you more advantage mid to late game, and that's basically it for the tips and tricks. For items, there are multiple options in this matchup actually. I did go Hydra first, the standard Hydra Duskblade Grudge build. I felt that wasn't too far ahead, so I didn't go Cleaver. The standard sort of thought there, but I think against Akali, it might actually be better to go Eclipse first, because Eclipse helps you a lot in the fighting against Akali, and Hydra may not give you enough of a shorter window to take the wave and run against Akali because she has Proto Belt. So in the side lane she can just Proto Belt onto you and your W usually isn't enough to get away. So Eclipse can be better. It gives you better trades. So the trade that I talked about earlier in the video, the WE into waiting for her E and then queuing, that would proc Eclipse. So if you have Eclipse, that would make that trade better. So if you go Eclipse first, then you would go Hydra into Grudge, Cleaver, and Edge of Night, or Serpents, right? It's a standard build that I used to go before Duskblade got buffed. However, this game I just went Hydra because that's what I've been basically doing every game, and I like farming with Hydra. But in this matchup, I think Eclipse first is best. So if you want to do that, you can do that. You can also just go Hydra first like I did. It's really up to you. And the rest of the build is pretty standard. If you're ahead, you want to get Cleaver. If you're not too far ahead, you go Grudge. Either way, you want to get both of those items. And then you want to get Edge of Night and Serpents. Edge of Night or Serpents, depending on what you need. And that's it for the items. So for the skill build, it's a standard Q, W, E max. I like maxing W second because it actually helps you to get away if you use multiple Ws in a fight throughout the fight across Akali. It helps you get away and it can help you kill her as well. I think Emax is pretty useless second, so I like doing QWE. You can max E second if you really want though. With Burst Strike it's usually not that bad, but I don't like doing that. And yeah, you level your ult whenever you want, and that's basically it for the skill order. In summary, I think Akali is a pretty tough matchup just because she can beat you 1 versus 1 throughout the entire duration of the game. You have to be really careful whenever you 1v1 her, even when you have items. If she has items too, you usually are just gonna lose. If she hits her E, you instantly lose. So it's kind of tough. But you do want to scale for the late game, you scale for the items, get into the team fights, and with your team I think it's better because she has dashes and you have blinks, and I think blinks are better in the late game when it comes to sort of all the spells doing a lot of damage. It's much easier for people to catch out the Akali in my opinion. Even though she has her invulnerability, her dashes become more and more predictable, and like you can sort of catch her out easier, I think, if you are against Akali as opposed to a Zed, if the Zed is playing well with the blinks and stuff. So playing for the team fights usually is the best bet against Akali. But yeah, that's it for this video. I hope it was useful and all that good stuff. I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.